All right. Think you're ready to get started? Hope you're all excited about Drupal Canvas, because we are really excited to show you what we've been building the last 15 months. I know you've seen plenty of demos in Dries notes. This is going to be a little bit different than what we've done before. We have less than 20 slides total. We're going to spend the rest of the time on doing live demos on Canvas. So expect to have some exciting times, and you know how live demos are.
Yeah, we all know what that means. There's a chance that we will need to fix some stuff on the fly, but we will manage that between the two of us. Before that, let's get into some quick introductions. Welcome, everyone. My name is Bálint Kléri. I'm a software engineer. I've been on the Canvas team at Acquia since last August, and I led the development of the JavaScript code components in Canvas, which you will hear about today.
And I'm Lauri Timmanee. I'm a senior product manager at Acquia. I have been a product lead for the Drupal Canvas project, and I oversee a couple other products at Acquia as well. All right.
We said live demos, so
let's actually get off the presentation just to begin. Right.
We want to show you a design in Figma that we pre-built, or parts of it we pre-built. But before we show you how we built it and why we built it that way, we thought it was a good idea to discuss a little bit how we would approach this build traditionally with Drupal. So at the top, what you see there, that looks like a block. That looks like a one-off. It's a hero type of element. We can make a decision about it later. But what do you think? Maybe just call it a block now, like a Drupal block.
I don't know, how are you going to implement this destination content page with that, but
yeah, of course. So there are already some similarities. They're not exactly the same, but they are similar. OK, so we'll come back to that later. How about those top destinations? That looks like kind of a listing type of element.
Yeah, although when I talked with the client, they said that they want to be able to customize these, based on seasonal needs, and they want to do some campaigns on the homepage as well, where they just sort of curate destinations to have. I was first thinking of taxonomy term, for example, to pull in a tag in here, but then I realized that they needed something a little bit more customized.
I was thinking views first, because it looks like a list, so why not use a view for that? But then what about the description above? Do you know if that needs to be editable?
Yeah, it definitely needs to be editable. We can see they have multiple different kinds of lists in here.
Right.
They need to be able to create, so yeah. View might not be a good idea because of that.
Yeah. So this is a conversation I bet many of you have heard or participated in or facilitated before, and it looks quite familiar, it's quite common. And it's interesting to start discussing something like this, but we immediately went from design to figuring out what does the content model look like, without actually thinking about how are we going to implement this design. And this is sort of a fundamental issue that Drupal has struggled with for a very long time, because Drupal is a very sort of theming customization modeled system, where you build markup in your modules and sort of in your site builds, and then themes customize that later on. Basically, we had to start with the backend, because imagine that we built something in a certain way, and then it turns out, oh, we actually want to replace that with a view. Now we're in a completely different situation, because the template is different, the markup is going to change, everything changes, then you might as well just start over the theming process for that particular area. So it is really what theming means. There is some kind of markup, it's led by the backend, then it ends up in the browser somehow, and then the theming process starts, and we try to make it look like the design, if we can. Although sometimes it happens that it's just way too hard. And have you been in that situation?
Yeah, where you had to update the designs that the client loved based on what you can do. But what if there was a way to actually solve this problem?
Right. So in the previous slide, I saw tightly coupled. That was a Freudian slip. So do we go decoupled then? Is that the solution?
I mean, decoupled has been a solution that people have been really successful with for the last 10 years to solve this problem. But it actually sort of brings up another problem, which is that it can be really expensive to build decoupled projects. The challenge is that you don't always need all of the complexity that decoupled provides. Sometimes it's warranted, but not always. And then clients are asking, why is this website build that we did, why is it suddenly $2 million to build this?
OK, so what do we do then?
Well, that's where we go back into the sort of roadmap that we've actually implemented. So Dries, actually, this is a slide from Dries' notes from a couple years ago at Pittsburgh. He announced in Pittsburgh a new feature in Drupal core, single directory components.
Which, as the name suggests, you put everything in a single directory, and by everything I mean your template markup, your styling code, and your JavaScript logic, if you need any. And they are exposed as low-level APIs throughout your system. But how about the user interface?
Yeah, single directory components are great to have that standardized way of defining, how to represent components. But you need more than just components. You actually need to be able to use them. And how you use single directory components today, pre-Drupal Canvas, is you actually have to figure out yourself how you map your components. Like you might be able to use, for example, a node template to pull in a single directory component and then use it in there. But that's not great for the marketing team. Like they're not going to go to your node template to use the single directory component. So you need something a little bit more. And that's where Drupal Canvas comes in. And it connects the components with the use cases that the marketing team and development team has for those components. There are some solutions that exist for the contrib ecosystem for trying to solve this problem. The challenge is that they're still very built on top of the existing Drupal user experience and assumptions, and because of that, doesn't fully realize the need for a marketing team to be able to successfully utilize these tools. And that's where Drupal Canvas now then connects the dots.
So how do we make that happen in Canvas? We have talked about single directory components already. That's one of the component type, the component source that you can use in Canvas. Blocks are the other one. They have existed for decades. And while single directory components are great for static UI output, building static UI output, you have the blocks that allow you to run PHP code, which allows you to run dynamic logic. And the best thing about that is that you can combine that with SDCs, because you can create an SDC, single directory component, to be the output of your block. So you get both things.
Yeah, but it's still the experience of creating that is it requires you to know PHP. It requires you to figure out how to use Drupal's systems. And that's where we have this new concept that you've maybe heard about, JavaScript code components.
Yeah, so basically the idea with JavaScript code components is that you don't need to know any Drupal. Whereas with blocks and single directory components, they are literally Drupal's inventions, which is fantastic. But we want to attract another type of audience, which is what we hope to do with JavaScript code components, where you can use an in-browser code editor, and you can write React, Tailwind CSS right in the browser, get it compiled, ready to go, and all of that with zero configuration. We're going to show that later.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is that all of them are used in Drupal Canvas the same way. So essentially, all of these sources, they become just Drupal Canvas components. The content creator, site builder, whoever is using these components don't have to care where those components are coming from. They just use them as Drupal Canvas components, and they all look and feel the same to be used in the UI. And that's where we bring, with Drupal Canvas, this new unified workflow where we provide tools for component development, for visual page assembly, and connecting your component and pages to content and data from your CMS. So you can use the data from your taxonomy terms, content types, media, whatever. You can bring those in and bring them alive using the components, the Drupal Canvas components, and then essentially build this unified experience. So
I think we promised live demos.
Yeah, so we better give some.
Yes.
So let's get out of the slides. And of course,
we need
let
internet.
me actually, I probably should have checked on the Wi-Fi before. Does anyone have the password?
Drupal.
Too many times. Drupal. Perfect. That's good.
I would refresh the page, just to be sure.
You would refresh? All right. We got something. All right, so this is essentially what we've built. So this is something that very closely resembles the Figma design that we saw before. It's all built in Canvas components, as we can see in here. And what's interesting in here is we can start seeing that when we click these, we have some settings that allow us to customize these things. If we make changes, we can see what they look like, and so on. Very basic. You've probably seen all of this already in previous demos in Dries Node and
Lost. Did I touch something? I think we. I touched something here. I think I may have touched something here.
we're getting support.
This is not a Canvas bug.
I
Just
hope
saying.
not. William, do you confirm? Oh?
I pushed one of these accidentally with my water bottle.
All right. Fixed it. All right. So what's interesting about Canvas is that we're using here these settings on the right sidebar, which allow sort of specific settings. So things like changing the title color, changing the accent color. Let's actually try.
These are the props of your components. They allow you to customize how your component behaves.
Yeah, and then we have this other concept, which is slots, which allow you to essentially build trees of components, so place components inside another component. And how we've constructed this page is where we have a section, which allows us to set the background color in here, and then we're actually placing a grid inside it, which allows us to specify how many columns does this have, and then we can place cards inside the grid. And then if we go to the layers, we can actually see what that looks like. So we have section, then we have a slot in there, then we have a grid with another slot, and more stuff. And you can actually build much more deeper trees.
So maybe once again, what is the difference between props and slots? Because they are very, very core concepts of how we build components in Canvas.
So props are settings on the right sidebar. Slots are to build trees of components, and they are usually used by actually just dragging a component inside a slot. Oh, looks like another snafu for the demo.
Lauri,
Because I forgot to turn off my notifications.
You did that again. You did that in Barcelona last year.
Gabor, you forgot to remind me.
And then Gabor sent all of us messages, stop mentioning Lauri, because he forgot his notifications on. So now it happens again. OK, what is this?
So looks like it's an urgent request. Maybe we need to deal with this now.
We're kind of in the middle of something here. But
Bálint, can you help us with this?
It's a new page. I mean, that's quick in Canvas, so why not? OK, let's do it. So we need a new page for this marketing campaign. And we received a PDF about it. OK, so this is roughly the idea of how it should look like. OK, then I guess we should just create a new page now. So I'm going to do that here. And once my new page loads, it actually did.
That's a completely empty page, so you're starting fresh over there.
OK, so let's give it a name first, because this very important email says that we need it, and the PDF says this is called Find Your Perfect Match. So I'm going to type that here. And what is it that we're changing here again? Right, this is the entity form that we are looking at on the right sidebar. This is for the page entity that Canvas ships. And I just changed the title field of the entity by typing that here. But that still doesn't show up on the page. OK, let's start building this page. But OK.
You actually need the header and the footer for this from the home page.
Right, I had that on the home page. So how do I do that? Do I just go and copy-paste that onto every one of my pages?
You could copy and paste it if you wanted to, but there's a better way, actually. Have you heard of the global regions?
Yes, I think I have. So let me go to my theme settings. And here, we're using the Stark theme for this. And I need to actually enable these. Oh, actually, it turns out they are already enabled. So here are Drupal theme regions. And we enable Canvas to handle some of these for us. There is actually a lot of here.
Yeah, there's a lot of regions often in Drupal themes because of historically the block module didn't allow you to build sort of complex trees of components, which is different in Drupal Canvas. So we're just actually turning off the header and the footer because that's really all we need.
Right.
So let's actually see if we can build out those.
OK, so everything is in the content region now on this page that we built. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the header to the global region header. And then I'm going to scroll down, if I can remember that this is natural scroll, which is not
We were fighting over that before the presentation, which way Should we have it? All right, so we got the footer and header. How does it look like on the new page now?
Looks pretty good.
That's more like what we want.
OK.
The great thing about the header and the footer is that it's actually using the same components, both to create content and the header and the footer. So if you have buttons or others that you wanted to place in your header and footer, you can share those between the different use cases.
OK, and I think I'm seeing something here that's very similar to what I have on my homepage. So what do I do about that?
Maybe we could try to create a pattern out of that, because that seems like something that we're using quite a lot on this site.
All right, so the pattern I'm creating, again, so this is a component tree here with a section component and a bunch of slots and props configured already for me. So I'm going to just create a pattern out of it and add it to my library. And once I go and see this page again, sorry, that's a different one, finding our perfect match. Sorry, this is here. So I'm going to just drag it onto the page, and I have it ready. OK, so I got something going on here. But going back to the page that I received, the PDF, there is a new component here. Well, we already have a grid component available in our library. But here is a cart component that we don't quite have in our library yet. So I think it's time to create a code component out of
let's actually create one using the Canvas code components in here.
So then I'm going to go to my library and create the first code component. I'm going to name it simple card. And I actually created something similar in the past, which I have it, so you don't have to watch me type all of this.
So the great thing about this is just pretty standard React component. There's some unique things about these, because oftentimes you can't use React on its own. You often use sort of a set of libraries to build components with. We are, for example, importing the formatted text component, which is a component provided by Canvas in here, which allows us to then essentially safely handle the formatted text in here.
So we got an undefined outputted. That is because I haven't set up the props yet. So this is the code component I'm writing here in React. I'm also adding Tailwind CSS classes, because that's built into Canvas. You don't have to use that if you don't want to, but that's an option. But I'm also expecting two props here named type, title, and description. So I'm going to just type them in here. For the title, it's going to be sample title, and I'm adding one for description. And all I need to do is just type in the name, and it's going to be lower camel cased automatically, and they will be passed as prop values here. And I just set the prop type. And I'm adding some demo text here.
Nice. So how do you actually add this component to a page? Can you show that?
Yes, I can. So now, when I'm happy with this, I just need to push add to components. And then it ends up in my library. And before I use it, let me add a section to this page that has a content slot, so I can put anything in this section, and I will get nice spacing around it. And now I'm going to pull in the grid component, which also has a content slot. And I can finally place my simple card here inside of that. And I will add multiple of those. And any idea what happened with the height here?
There was actually some fancy settings on the grid, because of the homepage had those interesting grid layouts. So
right, we have alternating tall here, the spans preset. So
if you set that to none, I think that should fix it. Yeah.
It's nicely resolved.
Yeah.
And I think we got it. So this is quite similar to what we received in the PDF, and I think we can finish up this page later.
Yeah. Should we show some other things that we have been cooking up on this site?
Yeah, so these so far have been one-off pages, landing pages that you build. How about the content types? So Dries mentioned that we now have content templates. So let's talk about those a little bit.
We actually have one content template already pre-built in here for destination. So each destination itself has, it's a node that we're displaying in here. using this full content template. If we go look at these, we can see that all of the content is actually coming from the content type. I guess to show that it's not fake, I can actually change to another entry, so we can see that the content actually changes.
So those are actual nodes that exist in
Yeah, they're actual nodes. I can even show that they are not fake nodes. They are real nodes in here. And I can go edit them using a form in here. So I had some fun time exploring interesting cities in different parts of the world. But instead of just spending time on exploring what we already built, maybe we should...
Let's build something new. Yes.
Yeah. I have this blog post content type that we can see in here. So let's actually build a content template for that. So the blog post actually has a couple fields. It has an author reference, which references a person content type. It has a body, category, and main image. Pretty simple. Should be easy for us to build, right? So I'm going to create a new template in here. Let's choose blog post.
So those are your node types, content types listed there. And a template, what is that?
It's essentially overriding the view mode for that content type that we have in here. So this is overriding the full content view mode with a template now. And
currently, we only support full content, but we will be expanding that later on.
All right. So it looks like this is empty at the moment. So let's actually start adding some components in. So actually have a pattern for that nice pattern that we saw on some other content. And then we can actually start linking these to content. You can see that it's loading.
So what you're seeing here is that the pattern was already saved with static inputs. But of course, we want to make those dynamic. We want to have those values to be read from your actual nodes, from your actual data. So that's what's happening here. We are linking to a field.
I'm not sure we have a subheading. Maybe we can use actually the term in here. So we have a category. So let's actually display the category below the title in here. So we can go and follow references in here as well.
Like multiple levels of references.
So it looks like the text is a little bit too big. So let me adjust that a little bit. Blog posts are a little bit longer than the destination names. All right. That looks pretty good. Let's now display the main content here as well. So I'm going to use the two-column layout in here. And then let me display the text using a paragraph component. And then I'm going to select the body in here. And I'm going to adjust the alignment to left. And yeah, maybe I'll make the text a little bit smaller. And yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. Are we missing anything?
Yeah, can we show the author maybe?
Oh yeah, we have a component for that as well. So let me just drag that in. OK, so what do I have to do this time? I have to go to the author.
Yeah, so author is another content type. And there's an entity reference field on the blog post content type that is referencing authors. And here we are seeing that we are able to output a field from a reference entity.
All right. Here we go.
Looks great. Okay.
Should we publish our changes?
Yes, let's do that. And then I think what's next is that we want to build a list to show these blog posts.
Let me just double check that this actually looks good on the other content that we have. Yeah, it looks great.
OK, great. So listing, can we still use views for listing these?
Oh, you better come show that.
Okay.
I don't remember when I last used views.
Well, it's been a while for me as well. I think I still know where it is.
Yeah, I think it's under structure.
Under structure, what is the... OK, so I'm going to just go ahead and create a very simple one. And listing blog posts. And I'm going to create a block.
Yeah, because then we can place it in Canvas.
Yeah, because blocks still work in Canvas. So now that I have it, I'm going to just go and create a new page. I'm going to name it blog. And in here, I already have this block because I just created it. But it looks quite plain, which is expected. And what happens now is that you go and override the appropriate templates, and you make it look good. Maybe you connect it to an SDC, the output of it, it's getting quite complex from here. So can we do something about it in code components maybe? Because you have just seen how we can build code components, JavaScript code components from scratch.
Yeah. So I have this destinations page that we had built before, where we actually have this list in here. It's using JSON API to fetch the data, and then it's just displaying them as cards in here. So this is actually another feature that is pretty powerful, which is that you can use within code components, other code components, to build more complex ones. So we're using the cards to create this list in here. But I'm actually going to do the same for blog post.
OK, so that's going to take a while to figure out, because that JSON API, I mean, we bundled a lot of convenience methods and all kinds of libraries to make it convenient, but it's not quite something we can manage in the remaining 11 minutes and 49 seconds.
All right. I'm going to go with the AI option.
OK,
then.
what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
So we're just writing a prompt.
All right. So thinking about what to do about my request. It's great telling me that it's going to create a new component.
That's
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Got the content type name right, it seems.
Yep. Oh, let me check if there might be a different machine name for the block content type.
That's not good.
That's not good. All right. Let's try again.
Okay.
I'm going to tell it very specifically that we need to use the blog post content type. Maybe that helps. Pretty sure that also wasn't a Canvas bug, but we've seen a lot of accusations in the last.
OK.
All right. So now we actually got a component.
Did something.
Looks like there's actually still some issues that we could work through.
Right. It's not using the formatted text component for sure, because we are seeing some markup here. And I think this might be good enough for this demo, because it actually shows that it's able to retrieve the data from JSON API, which I think it's the hardest one. Like, we can go and make this pretty now once we have this.
Yeah.
So,
or we could tell it to use the card component, and then it would use a completely different format.
I think it would work out.
Yeah. Let's just add it to a page and
yes,
be done with the demo.
So I think this is good for a first start, and then afterwards this can be polished.
Yeah. What's also cool about what I love about this is that there's this data fetch tab where you can actually see all of the data that you're getting. So when you're working on those responses, you can just see from here what is it that you're working with.
Except the AI just figured all of that out, so it's not really needed in this case if you use the AI stuff. But it's very, very useful.
Yeah.
OK. So you have seen that we have created several code components all in the browser, 0 configuration. But how about if we don't want to use the browser and we don't want to use the in-browser code editor?
You want to actually show how we created this demo site?
Yeah, so we actually have this project here called Canvas CC, short for Code Components Starter. It's on my GitHub. I will also post a link somewhere. And what this gives us is a storybook environment geared towards developing Canvas code components, fully set up with the same ESLint rules and same kind of compilation that we use in the in-browser code editor. So this is a quite safe development environment for you to create all your components. And now you're wondering, OK, but how do we move these into Drupal? So we have a CLI tool published for that. Drupal Canvas CLI allows you to synchronize the components both ways. And what I would like to show you really quickly is that I just built a simple card component a few minutes ago, and it's not in this storybook, of course. And I would like to download it to my code base. So this is the Canvas CLI tool in action. I'm going to just hit download. And these are all the components that you saw in Canvas before. I can now synchronize them to my local code base. And if I hit simple cart here, I'm going to download it. And it downloaded it for me. And after this, the CSS is broken because that's a known bug in the CLI tool. We just need to do a new release for that. But if I change this line here, sorry, different keyboard, you can see that my Storybook instance is back in action. And from here on, all we need to do is write a story file for this new component to show up, which we could do with cursor right now, but we want to leave some space for Q&A. So unless you really, really want to see that, I think you can imagine you just generate a new story file with cursor or something, or just write it manually. I know it sounds weird, but we can still do that. And then it will show up in Storybook, and then you can make changes either in Canvas or here in Storybook in your local development environment and just synchronize back and forth.
Yeah, and what's really cool, we actually built this based on the Figma. We used the Figma MCP with cursor to build this. And it's a slightly different approach from what we saw in the Dries notes, in the sense that we were actually writing JavaScript components and then using the CLI tool to upload them. But it's not fundamentally that different from what was there.
But in the end, these are just React components. And there are a few things that you need to follow to make sure they work in Canvas, but there aren't as many. So, and this project helps you to follow all those.
All right. So let's get back into the couple more slides that we have before we get into Q&A.
OK, so RC release candidate 1 has been released. What does this mean?
So it means that it's time to really start testing Drupal Canvas.
Right. But it's not really ready for production use yet. You can start building your site. You saw in November, there will be a stable release. Until then, Canvas is not under the security advisory. So any potential security problem will be fixed in public. And that's why you shouldn't run a production site yet.
And we're working on contrib module compatibility as well. So as you saw in the Dries note, we've looked at the top of the list of the module, made sure that all of them work nicely with Canvas. It's not really so much about making them compatible. It's more about just figuring out what does the UX of those modules look like with Canvas, because Canvas is quite different from editing with Drupal.
It's a different concept.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not really the same as Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 migration. It's more like, just making sure that you're keeping up with the latest and greatest. All right. So why is Drupal Canvas a big deal or why I think it's a big deal? So first, it will unlock Drupal for everyone. And what I mean is it's both non-technical people, but it's also in the front-end developer community, is that it opens up the opportunity for someone who is not necessarily very deeply familiar with how you design for Drupal, a possibility to actually start building with it. It was actually interesting because of, I think it was the week after we announced Experience Builder, which now is called Drupal Canvas. There was a long Reddit thread where someone was trying to figure out, like, how do I actually implement a theme in Drupal? And it was like, there was no consensus at all how to do that. And it felt like we as a Drupal community don't know how to do it, because everyone was fighting internally about how we actually should do that. It also accelerates delivery, which kind of goes to the same point. We now actually have a very opinionated way of how we think components should be built. And you can use those across multiple use cases. We provide no-code tools for creators who are not familiar with code to use those tools. And then we have AI, which is a pre-configured AI environment in the sense that you really just connect it with your AI backend, and you can start building with it.
So what is next for Canvas? What is in the future on the roadmap? So for JavaScript code components, we would like to zero in on the better developer tooling part. We would like to make it the best possible experience to build front-end UI components and use that in a comprehensive CMS and a comprehensive system. And we know that everything that you do with code components right now, they are rendered in the browser. So of course, we will put some effort into making sure that server-side rendering is solved. It may not work with every kind of hosting provider, but we will have some fundamentals implemented for that, and we want to make it as easy as possible to adopt to this approach.
Specifically to the hosting issue, where it's like not every hosting provider might not provide the tools to do that, but we are providing generic tools that allow you to sort of implement a solution from outside of your hosting provider on sort of as a layer on top of your existing hosting.
Yes, and we would like to create APIs for extending Canvas. And I don't just mean module integrations. I mean extensions that are web apps implemented in any kind of technology, embedded in Canvas, and using real-time browser-based APIs to interact with what's happening with Canvas. For example, getting the currently selected component, adding to your content, getting the current regenerated preview HTML. All of these rich experiences should be possible within Canvas, and we have a very experimental API already in place for that.
Yeah, if you're interested in figuring out what opportunities might exist in the extension space during the DrupalCon, just come talk to me. I'm very interested to hear what ideas you might have around that. Besides extensibility, we're going to go start expanding towards that vision of allowing non-developer creators to create site templates with Drupal CMS, which is why we have to provide tools for designers to create components using Canvas. We will also expand to multilingual support. So Canvas today can create content in a single language. In future, we will add support for translating your content. Also, right now, the Canvas UI is only available in English. So in future, we will be adding support for translating the UI itself to different languages.
And finally, what you currently have in Canvas is basically a single workspace. You can make changes across many pages. You can selectively publish from those changes. But we would like to support more advanced workflows in the future, like scheduling or using multiple workspaces. All of those things are on the horizon.
Yeah, that sounds great. So if you want to learn more about a Drupal Canvas, this presentation was very focused around how you use Drupal Canvas in this coupled, simple environment. But Bálint is presenting with Fago. When is that? Tomorrow morning, I think?
Yes, it is.
On actually how you can use Drupal Canvas in a decoupled environment if you are interested in that. So that's also something that is actually possible with Canvas, even if it's not the primary focus of Canvas.
And we have another session coming up. You may have heard about Acquia Source, which is Acquia's new SaaS product. And actually, Acquia Source is one of the reasons why Acquia has been able to fund so much of Canvas's development. Acquia Source uses Canvas. All of Canvas is open source, so it is the exact same version that's in Acquia Source. And Lauri is going to do a presentation about that also tomorrow.
Yeah, so if you're interested to hear more about Acquia Source, scan the QR code to register for that session or visit the booth. I believe that they have the same QR code available there as well. Looking forward to actually talking about that as well with you all. So, key takeaways.
Yeah, so the RC is out. You can start using it. Don't put it in production yet, but you can start using it. And
Canvas is not just a page building solution. It is a full-on site building tool that you can actually build much more than just pages.
And we believe we addressed all the limitations that come from either decoupled or coupled projects with Canvas.
And finally, Drupal Canvas takes Drupal to a modern component-based approach where components are really the foundation of how you implement your design in Drupal. All right, so that's really the content that we had for you today. I know that we are out of time. I don't know if we have a couple minutes for maybe a few questions, and then we do a hallway track on more questions after that. Yeah. Right, so we have a question in the front. If you're using an existing solution like Patterns UI and you're happy with that, like Patterns UI is a more focused around the site builder persona. So there might not be much of a reason to necessarily migrate your existing sites over to Canvas. But if you're interested in migrating, I think Kristen is going to be talking a little bit more about that tomorrow. So that might be a good session. Thursday, sorry. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Question. So please think about the fact that your user audience is not site administrators necessarily.
Yep.
So
The question is,
do you have a plan to address that? And you don't have to answer right now, but
yep.
make a plan if you don't.
OK, so the question was, how do we envision what security implications there are in having code components that are written in the UI that could be exposed to a less experienced user, essentially. So actually, the whole feature of code components, first of all, it is behind a permission on its own. So you can totally restrict access from content creators, and we actually believe that content creators will be restricted access from there. In future, there's going to be probably a separate permission to create components with the visual tools without actually having access to code still. So sort of a very Drupal way of having that layered access control in there. It is also, there's obviously consideration in terms of XSS, so that's probably the primary consideration. But in terms of running code on the server side, it's all actually right now all of the code that we write in the code components is run in client side. It's not run, there's nothing run on server side. And when we introduce server side rendering of that, it will be introduced in a manner where it's specifically secure to run the code on server, even if it is coming from a untrusted user. So we will be documenting ways in which it can be done. Acquia source obviously is leveraging code components, and because of that, for Acquia, it's also in the interest to make sure that all of this works.
And just to prove you that we are thinking about this, I think this is the only reason why we haven't already done server-side rendering, because it's easy to do, except for the security implications.
Yeah.
So we are aware. Thank you.
But happy to have a follow-up conversation around that. Let's do one more question. All right, we have question. Yeah?
So a question about templates. So we had big templates, and now we have HTML and JavaScript. How we can sync them together and make the front-end component look like back-end component, and all the changes should be in sync. How we can achieve it?
So it really depends on what is the approach to building your site, how you want to sync those things. So the question is, how do you sync your different types of components? You might have SDCs, you might have some JavaScript components, and
Yes. Are you thinking about the CSS styling of those?
Not CSS, but HTML style.
The HTML style,
so
the markup.
HTML text, HTML structure. So, for example, if you had the teaser of a news item in Twig template, and we should copy-paste this to JavaScript, and if we change div, for example, to h2, we should manage this in two places.
Okay, so I'm repeating it. The concern was that what if we have markup also in Twig templates, and do we have to copy that into JavaScript components? You don't have to. You can still use Twig. You can still use single directory components. They will work just fine in Canvas. You should use JavaScript components if you have a problem that your SDCs cannot solve, or your current workflows or team structure cannot solve. But there is no reason for you to move anything from Twig to JavaScript components.
And what we don't support today is being able to essentially include single directory components in a JavaScript code component.
Oh, yes, we do.
Can you import it?
Oh, not like that.
Yeah,
no.
so you can use them in content, but you can import them inside the code today.
Yeah, but you can put it in a slot if you want.
So maybe that's something we have to look into in future, so then you can actually really just encapsulate the components on their own, and then regardless of how they're built, you can use them.
I think you can achieve that with slots today, so maybe.
Yeah. Definitely something to look into. All right, we're out of time. Let's continue the discussion.
Little question about front-end components. Why do we use React but not web components? So just to fetch
What?
the JSON and render it can do just JavaScript without React.
So two things. We actually use Preact, which is a more lightweight version of React when we output these components. But also, please come to my talk with Wolfgang tomorrow, and we will have the answer for you, I promise.